Yep. So thank you very much, Bart, for that insightful presentation on TARS, and it was basically very nice hearing all the things that you had to, say with regarding to how they are, of course, helping us in this high performance RPC framework based on the name service and the TARS protocol, and of course, it's also very much nice hearing us with as well the way that you can implement hosting services via the flexible schedule. And I'm sure, of course, many of us and many people out there will be putting all these practices to good use. So next up, we would like to move on to our next session, and I would like to introduce Mr. Dheeraj Nayal, who is the Global Community Ambassador at the DevOps Institute, and he will be discussing upskilling towards everything ops. So I will hand the stage over to you, Dheeraj, for you to continue and go on with the presentation. You're on mute, by the way. Dheeraj, by the way, you're on mute.
Hi, Veed. Thank you. And I'm just trying to set up my setup. Are you able to see my slides now?
Yep, all good.
Awesome. So thanks
Yep.
again for inviting me to the DAOPS Foundation meetup. And very excited to be here and share a couple of insights and a couple of things around DevOps hybrid skills and upskilling towards everything ops. So I'm sure it's quite a mouthful to understand, considering some of the keywords which are being mentioned as part of the topic. Talking about DevOps, talking about hybrid skills, talking about upskilling, and sure enough, talking about everything ops. So that is my intent as part of this session, is to make it as interesting as possible, and try to concise it around 40 minutes in duration, so that it's also not too long and not too extensive in terms of understanding for the audience. So I'll just start my timer here and we are good to begin. So just a brief introduction about myself. I'm the global community for JPAC and Middle East Africa region at DevOps Institute. Also one of the initial continuous delivery foundation ambassadors. You can see that I'm coming from part of my passion to support the global community with respect to achieving new skills, new knowledge, new set of innovation in order to gain those continuous learning. But more or less within my heart, I'm a DevOps enthusiast, like many of you who are present and who are going to be present later on in the upcoming meetups as well, so that we are able to learn together as part of the community. So that's a bit about myself, and then the agenda of this session has been set, like I said, to be concise, but at the same time to make it as intriguing as possible, so that some of the key takeaways as part of this session is to talk about the DevOps challenges, specifically in the after effects of the pandemic or the ongoing effects of the pandemic, and then what the next normal entails as far as any of the professionals or any of the enterprises are considered, and how they are moving into the new ways of working. And then, of course, sharing some of the insights about how you can build your own DevOps future, considering the trend which we are witnessing. So before moving ahead, a bit about DevOps Institute and what we do as an association. So we are a global professional member association, and like I said, our mission is to advance the human elements of DevOps. So by humans, we mean all the folks like you who shares the common interest, common passion towards DevOps and related domains. And everything which we do as part of our association is to support this global community, which is currently around 80,000 members strong, with a presence of more than 150 plus countries. So Very excited to be here as part of this meetup because on the right hand side, as part of this session, I will be sharing some of the key insights from our latest research report, which is our annual research report known as Upskilling Enterprise DevOps Skills Report. There are tremendous insights which is available. You can also download your own free personalized copy from our website. So, without further ado, let's move on to what we are going to talk about as part of this session. So, like I discussed with you as part of the session initially, that what I'm going to share with you is some of the details or some of the insights about DevOps hybrid skills and how you can upskill towards everything ops as a professional is concerned, because I'm not sure if you are all familiar with this movie scene from the very popular Matrix movie, in which Morpheus gives a choice to Neo to choose between whether he would like to get to know the real world or not. So, considering the new normal which we are witnessing right now, again, the choice is completely yours. Whether you tend to ignore this trend of getting the DevOps hybrid skills, or whether you align yourself to continuously learn and achieve those hybrid skills in the new normal. So, how you can do it is something which I will be covering as part of this session. So, let's begin first of all in understanding how the COVID-19 made a drastic shift when the digital transformation is concerned. So I really like this graphic which was being developed by Tom Fishburne, and he mentions about a very, I think, a very common meeting room scenario in which a leader is sharing with his staff or with his employees that they are not too much concerned about digital transformation right now. Before the pandemic was actually a reality, because for them it was something still a bit far away. But then came the new normal because of the pandemic effect. And I think, apart from all the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, all the professionals who have been working day and night, even during these pandemic era to support the community, the unsung heroes of this global pandemic has been the tech community, because technology has been the driving force while providing or extending all kinds of support, be it healthcare, be it the pharmaceuticals, be it the vaccine developments. Everything has been riding on the backbone of technology. And that's where the tech community, folks like many of you who have joined in here, who have been really helping the global community to overcome this terrible pandemic. So, how this pandemic has changed everything as far as a business is concerned, as far as information technology is concerned. So, these two individual and very nice to read research reports. One is being developed by IDC in association with HCL, and the other one is by DevOps Institute, like I shared. Both of them has been recently released, and it provides a lot of insights about at various levels how this pandemic changed the business, and that's what I'm going to discuss as part of the impact it has in the organization. So how pandemic impacted the organization? So it impacted the business models, because there were different kind of business models that even existed during pandemic and were thriving, but are now no more exist. And then also subsequently it impacted the routes to market, the go to market strategy, these channel strategies, and how the consumers were rushing to cloud by the organization, by the technology companies, because that's where everything was more secure as well as working as it should be. How the new ways of working shifted to work from home, more remote working was introduced, and then they were scaling up down and sideways in multiple tangent by the organization, because as part of the report which I shared with you, it was found that IT teams moved 20 to 25 times faster than before. So faster than before, I mean before the pandemic. So you can easily imagine the impact it has on the organization, both positive and negative. And that's where the humans of DevOps or the professionals in DevOps became really high in demand. So if you see on the figure on the left side, so it showcased that COVID-19 or the pandemic has not stopped organization from hiring into DevOps teams. Even you can do a search in your own job portal in whichever location you are right now. You can easily find lots of jobs which are aligned with the DevOps profile. And similarly, if you'll see on the right hand side, more than 60% of the organization are either recruiting right now for the DevOps or related roles, or they are planning to do in the future. So if you are a professional who are learning in DevOps domain, you are doing the right thing, because that's where the industry is moving as well. And it's not just for the present, it's also for the future as well. Now let's look at the higher level within the leadership within the organization. Talking about CXO, talking about the VP, talking about the directors of the companies. So what we found as part of this survey, that business leaders grasp the benefits of DevOps to customers and core business metrics. So what it essentially means that the business leaders aligns the business value with the DevOps value which they are getting as part of their return on investment. And also as part of the pandemic, what was found that responding to pandemic likely helped business leaders understand the significance of DevOps towards sustaining and growing the business. I was just having a chat with the MD of Ericsson for Asia Pacific, in which he mentioned that everything which we are doing right now as part of mitigating the impact of pandemic across the business and the community is actually laying a blueprint or a template for the future leaders in able to or to able to manage this kind of crisis in the future. So you can imagine the kind of value business leaders are able to derive by introducing DevOps movement as part of their own internal adoption. Also, when talking about the metrics and the value stream mapping, what we found that organizations benefiting from metrics and value stream mapping which connect DevOps results to business outcomes. So similarly to the first point which I mentioned, that business leaders were able to align their business value or the business goals with respect to the DevOps adoption, which resulted in order to also find it out in a more quantified manner by using techniques like value stream mapping. So, if we talk about how this crisis has accelerated the change or accelerated the DevOps transformation widespread across the verticals and business, what we realize that DevOps continues to shift left. So, what it means that security, which was essentially not much significant earlier as part of the DevOps movement, now became a primary factor to ensure that whatever updates which are going through the application, whatever services which are being introduced are more secure. Because in the more connected world, it is really essential to avoid those kind of hacks, to avoid those kind of data leaks. And at the same time, since there was so much of cloud adoption which was happening, it also required intelligent automation. So what does intelligent automation means? It essentially means reducing the waste, reducing the time to market, so that the adoption which is happening should happen more faster in the best quality as much as possible, while reducing the risk of any breaks or any kind of faults as part of the pipeline. We also found that there was a tremendous pressure on the legacy system because especially large organizations had a huge technical debt, which essentially means legacy systems, and to update to a new ways of working or new set of technology, it required a lot of effort, lot of introduction within the enterprises that reduce a lot of uh, not negative, but more like a positive disturbance for a short period of time, but for the greater good. But that is really significant if you are working for a large organization and can relate that introducing something, even a small, which will have a wide spread impact over the organization is always difficult. And then we also found the artificial intelligence, machine learning were recognized as the de facto standards toward optimization because there were lots of new operating models that were appearing. And that's where the metrics, techniques like value stream management, and roles like site reliability engineering, which is also among the top 5 hiring roles as per the job reports being published by LinkedIn and many other regional job portals or networking sites, which continues to grow even during this pandemic and change related to it. So now, if we talk about how DevOps has been good for business, specifically during the business, the pandemic, you can see that it eventually also improved employee productivity. It also enhanced the customer experience. And if we talk about the buy-in from the leadership team, so that's where the leadership team core focus was as well, to have more employee productivity, to have better customer experience, to get improved business agility, which has been really instrumental while the increased adoption of DevOps, especially after the pandemic or the ongoing pandemic. Now, when we talk about for how DevOps is good for IT as a whole, as a system, or for the teams and the individuals, because it not just improves the employee productivity but also improve the employee satisfaction, because there is more synchronization between teams that reduces friction between the teams, and also how IT to business alignment, which has been a long debatable topic within the organization, have drastically improved. And of course, collaboration and communication, which has become a pillar of IT during not just pandemic, but for the future ahead, to provide the value of IT or the investment, which also increases the better decision making. So now let's look at some of the challenges which is related to the DevOps challenges within the enterprise. So we'll look at 4 key DevOps challenges. One is the people, the second one is the structure, the third one is the process, and the last one is the technology or the technological ecosystem. And when we talk about the people challenges, right? So as part of the DevOps philosophy, I think many of you will always be aligned with this, that there is a traditional mindset of more siloed behavior or more individual teams not able to interact or be in sync with each other, specifically development and operations team. And then there is a project versus product mindset. So earlier there were lots of project basis decisions that were being made, but now that transition is being done into a product based mindset. And then there are lots of fear or resistance to change, because like I said, specifically within large organization who already had a legacy or a history of specific systems working for decades, it takes a lot of efforts to bring positive change. And then there is a lot of the lack of training within the enterprise. I will also share some of the insights that how many organizations, even right now, are focused on their internal upskilling programs or training programs. And I'm sure you will be fascinated to know. And then there are generational and multicultural issues, specifically for the multinationals, because it involves a lot of communication and the language barrier. Because as part of the distributed teams, you are dependent on each team working from different geographies, and locations. And that also includes mitigating some of the ingrained behavior as part of the larger group within the organization. So these are all some of the key people challenges. And now talking about the structural challenges which is being faced by the enterprise or specifically the management, is that at the minute level management there is a lot of anxiousness between the middle management in an order to understand this change being introduced within the organization. Because like we shared earlier, it is also about the mindset, and it is not something very easy to change the mindset of the folks within the enterprise. And then there are a lot of lack of skilled senior level executives who are not able to see far beyond, who are not able to plan for the future but have a short term view. So these are some of the key structural challenges. Now, talking about some of the process challenges. Of course, there is a lack of disciplines because you require a lot of perseverance while introducing DevOps within the enterprise, because it's not technology, it's not a philosophy, it's a harmonical combination of everything in itself, including the mindset change, including the tool chain, including the philosophy, including the cultural shift. So that's all combines together as part of the DevOps adoption, as part of the movement. And that's where the complexity of existing processes, which is part of the legacy system or something, a new system which you would have adopted without uh, assessing it enough. And then, of course, I come this across specifically with some of the head of departments and the senior level executives at the enterprise, that they don't know where to start. They are quite clueless about where to introduce this positive change or positive development within the organization that will help not just at the present but also at the future to thrive. And then there are, of course, lots of compliance, governance, risk challenges, specifically a lot more when it comes to the banking institution, financial institutions, which makes it really tough when as far as the process challenges are considered. Now, last but not the least, let's look at the DevOps orchestration platform as part of the technologies. So I'm sure you're quite familiar, specifically after the first session delivered by the speaker, in which he also showcased some of the technological improvements. I think TARS is doing a lot of great stuff, which can be utilized by the wider community. So when we talk about the technological aspect, there is a lot of things to be learned and aligned when it comes for the professionals or the teams. Because what happens is sometimes you are too focused on the continuous delivery, you tend to ignore the continuous testing, which is again part of the same wheel, or you tend to ignore the security or the continuous integration. So everything as a whole needs to be the core focus while learning towards DevOps adoption. Now let's look at some of the habits which we have identified as part of the survey and report. So the most successful DevOps ways of working has been found out in learning organization, which are typically more than 70%, followed by the safety culture, which is really essential. So if you're working towards DevOps within your role, within your teams, if you're learning organization, you are essentially making it a good habit to be successful for the DevOps adoption, because it is also been predicted by Gartner that more than 90% of the organizations who are adopting DevOps right now are bound to fail by 2025. And that is a really fascinating figure if you think about, because They are not failing because of DevOps. They are failing because they are not able to imbibe best practices within the organization, which this specifically a slide also showcase. Now, I was mentioning earlier that we found out some really interesting from the global perspective that 39% of the enterprise companies do not have a registered upskilling programs internally. So what it means, they do not have a training plan through which they go through upskilling their internal employees, how their learning journey should grow in order to align with the emerging technologies, DevOps adoption, DevOps movement. 39% of the enterprises still do not have it. So that figures needs to be changed drastically if we are able to move into the positive direction. So now, amid this pandemic, amidst these challenges being faced by the enterprise, there is also a great opportunity for the professionals to not just find the right opportunities in the market, but also to reinvent yourself. So, how you can do it? Uh, I'm going to share it as part of these five core dimensions, which are essential capabilities being derived from our annual research report, Upskilling, which talks about the culture and human skills, process and framework capability and skills, functional composition and functional skills, intelligent automation capability and automation skills, and last but not the least, technology ecosystems and technical skills. So let's dive a bit deeper how these are being distributed. So the importance of these five major skills domain for a DevOps team members is almost similar. The highest is the automation skills, followed by the human aspects, which is essentially the soft skills, skills like communication, collaboration. We'll also dive a bit deeper in each section. So we'll look at these top five skills domain and top five skills. So in automation skills, continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, continuous operation support, DevSecOps are the top five automation skills which are required to be made sure to be imbibed as part of your continuous learning. In human skills, also known as soft skills, collaboration and cooperation, sharing and knowledge transfer, communication skills, personal value commitment, diversity and inclusion, very, very important considering what we have been witnessing in last 1 year or more. So these are the top five human skills you need to focus as a professional, as a team, as a wider group within the enterprise. Now talking about the technological skill, cloud computing platform, modern compute technology and architecture, operating systems, container orchestrations, application technologies. All these five together are among the top five skills which needs to be imbibed as part of your continuous learning. Now moving to functional skills, IT operations, IT infrastructure, security practices, application development and design. We were talking about APIs in the previous session as well. Architecture. These are all essential functional skills which needs to be a part of your continuous learning journey. Last but not the least, process and framework skills. Understanding process flow and analytics, agile, scrum, site reliability engineering, like I said, very, very hot and popular job role right now. Design thinking. All these top five skills should be part of your continuous learning journey. So all these together makes the five skills domain, and then the top five skills bifurcated as part of some of the inputs and feedback which we have received from the global community that could be helpful in your own blueprint of your own continuous learning journey. So here a bit more diving on the stats which we have found across all those top five skills, which I will skip quite fast because we have already covered as part of which are the top five. So these are among the human skills. Talking about the process and framework skills, the number one is the concept of software development lifecycle (SDLC), followed by process flow and analysis understanding, similar to agile, I would say. So, and some of the other process framework skills which followed the top five has been also showcased over here. And talking about the functional skills, uh, almost similar is the IT operations knowledge and IT infrastructure knowledge, followed by security practices, which is again very interesting to note because last year it was not even in top five. This year we found that it has moved in top three. So there has been a tremendous shift. That is why I said earlier that DevOps is shifting left more and more. And then talking about the automation skills, specifically for the technical folks over here, almost similar is CI/CD and continuous deployment, which is really understood as far as automation skills are concerned. But what I am really interesting to note here is the emergence of AIOps and DataOps, along with the ModelOps, which is part of machine learning, to be growing as part of the adoption. And last but not the least are the technical skills. So, of course, cloud computing grabs the number one spot, followed by the modern compute technology and architectures and operating systems. So all these are part of the research report, which is easily accessible, and you can also download a personalized copy. So now, if we look at some of the adopters and drivers as far as the industry is concerned, here we found out that learning has been a differentiator in terms of successful DevOps attainment. Because, like I said, DevOps adoption is easy, successful DevOps adoption and the outcome is difficult. So that is why we identified three levels of DevOps attainment within the enterprises. One are the early adopters. Second one are the drivers, which are the highest currently, where DevOps are far more pervasive. And then there are the leaders, in which the level of DevOps adoption is the highest. Now let me dwell a bit deeper on the professional skill side. So what we identified before pandemic that there were lots of specialist role within the enterprise, database administrator, cloud engineer, roles which are specifically assigned with a specialist role. But what we found out that there is a shift of specialist to become a T-shaped professional. So what is a T-shaped professional? A professional having a broad general knowledge about other domains too. And now with a gradual shift of the adoption of DevOps, which is now accelerated at a very fast pace, what we realize that now this T-shaped has changed into E-shaped professional. So what is a E-shaped professional? A professional who have hybrid skills across automation, functional skills, technical skills, providing him the experience to use those automation as part of the project or a product basis mindset, to explore new ideas as part of their innovative solution, and to execute hands-on to make it more automate. So that's how the E-shaped professional has evolved because E-shaped professionals are more cross-functional. They are multi-skilled team members instead of specialized individuals. And their KRAs or the key performance indicators are measured on customer value being delivered on a continuous basis instead of keeping it as a internal focus. So that's how these E-shaped professionals have evolved to be the most sought after skills or professionals within the industry. And that's where the five dimensions which I showcased earlier becomes really important because these five core dimensions essentially brings together your E-shaped skills or DevOps hybrid skills. So now we at DevOps Institute also helps the community as part of their own learning and journey. So there are a lot of set of certifications, trainings which are available through our registered education partner network located in more than 150 plus countries, including China, Singapore, which are delivering all these trainings across different domains that helps the individuals to gain these hybrid skills. And also, since we are at the DAOPS Meetup, there is a absolutely brilliant program which was launched by DevOps Foundation in association with DevOps Institute, which is known as DevOps Enterprise Coach. It is a high-level certification and training developed by DevOps Foundation for all the professionals at the middle or the higher level who are practicing DevOps or implementing DevOps within their enterprise. Because as part of the DevOps Enterprise Coach, uh, you are able to not just introduce or practice DevOps at the enterprise level, but also able to include organizational structure, lean and agile methodologies and philosophies, application architecture design, continuous delivery, test and automation, all additional concept as part of your own guidance within the enterprise. So it's a definitely a great course which is being developed by DevOps Foundation, which I would personally recommend for any of you who would like to get certified and take that learning as part of your own guidance within the enterprise. So, as a human, as the community coming together, humans will always make the biggest difference as far as the enterprise success is considered, as far as the mitigating effects or the mitigating ways to overcome this crisis considered. So, as an individual, it's your responsibility to gain those hybrid skills. Also, challenging the organizations who are not changing or adapting to the new ways of working by gaining these hybrid skills and showcasing that why these skills really matters. Organizations, on the other hand, should foster and reward more learning structure, shift towards value in terms of their metrics, or rather than product or rather than the profits, which is also equally significant. But the focus should be on value, the purpose of why an organization exists. And the leaders should become a transformational servant leader. That means they should listen more and then able to provide relevant guidance, promote and introduce new ways of working, which essentially also includes remote working, and reward and incent change. So, failing fast is something which is really introduced a lot many times within DevOps. So that should be encouraged, not discouraged within the organization. So some of the key takeaways as part of this session from my side would be your turn to reflect, plan, and initiate a DevOps upskilling journey, and how you can scale that DevOps upskilling journey across the organization in which you're working. So number one is assess your current DevOps capabilities in terms of its current state, the current state and the future state. Value stream mapping is definitely a great technique which can be utilized. Reflect on your current DevOps skills in terms of all five upskilling domains, like I shared with you: human, functional, process, automation, and technological. Understand which skills have helped you make an impact, why and what those impacts are. Honestly assess, which is really important, not superficially, your willingness to explore and change. Plan and prioritize where you would like to grow. Stay focused on value. Again, techniques like VSM, value stream mapping, really helps. And last but not the least, continue your automation journey so that you are able to reflect on your current state versus goals versus future state. So hopefully these takeaways are helpful for your own DevOps hybrid skills journey or continuous learning journey. But as a takeaway from my end, and also aligning with some of the leaders who have spoken in the past, specifically during the pandemic period, what they mentioned about the future of work, that the future of work will be more digital, it will be more flexible, it will be more collaborative. So all the details which I have shared as part of this session will help you in aligning with the future of work, and also able to help you to be successful. So with that note, would like to end my session. And if you have any kind of questions or queries, feel free to drop it in the chat box which you have as part of this meetup, online meetup. And you can also write down my email to reach out to me later if you have any kind of feedback, any kind of inputs, any kind of queries to share and discuss. I will be more than happy to engage and interact with you. So with that note, thank you once again, and thanks for inviting me to the DAOPS meetup.
Yes, hi. Thanks very much, Dheeraj, for that